morning. The Ramsey County Board of Commissioners meeting is called to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Fretham.
Here.
Matas Castillo.
Here.
McDonough.
Here.
McGuire.
Here.
Ortega.
Aye.
Reinhardt.
Here.
Carter.
Here. Thank you very much. Commissioner McGuire, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance while the rest of us mute to avoid muddle?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. I am going to go back up to the top of the agenda because I did I ask the clerk to call the roll? Yes, I did. Thank you. Second guessing. We've had our pledge and the agenda is before.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I must have, no, you know what? I was there. I thought I missed a roll call, but I did not.
That's okay. You and I are on the same train here today.
Okay.
Thank you. So we have the agenda of October 6th.
I'll move the agenda, Madam Chair. McGuire moves the agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner McGuire. Is there a second? I think that was Commissioner McDonough that seconded. Are there any questions on the agenda? Comments? Thank you. Would the clerk please call the roll?
McGuire.
Aye.
Ortega.
Aye.
Reinhardt.
Aye.
Fretham.
Aye.
Matas Castillo.
Aye.
McDonough. McDonough.
Aye.
Carter.
Aye, the agenda is approved and the minutes are before you from our September 22nd meeting for a motion.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Commissioner Ortega and Reinhardt. Are there any comments, questions, changes, additions to the minutes? If not, would the clerk please call the roll?
McGuire.
Aye.
Ortega.
Aye.
Reinhardt.
Aye.
Fretham.
Aye.
Matas Castillo.
Aye.
McDonough.
Aye.
Carter.
You.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. The minutes are approved, and I'll turn directly to the County Manager O'Connor for our COVID-19 update.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, members. I'm going to turn it over to Director of Public Health, Kathy Hadeen, to get us started.
Thank you, County Manager O'Connor, and thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Here's the COVID situation update in Minnesota and Ramsey County. So we'll flip over to that dashboard. In Minnesota, 104,799 people have tested positive for COVID-19. That's almost 14,000 additional people in the last 2 weeks. We do know there's been a record amount of COVID-19 community testing across the state, and there's also been a record number of positive tests across the state recently. Total cases requiring hospitalization to date is 7,940. The Minnesota Department of Health no longer shows the number of people who are currently hospitalized or are currently in the ICU on their site, but they do continue to show the number of people who are admitted into both each day. Unfortunately, in Minnesota, 2,136 people have died from COVID. Total approximate number of completed tests across the state is 2,169,786. In Ramsey County, and we'll get to that dashboard if we can get it pulled up, you can see the new cases if you go to the site, and I expect those last few days in that first bar where you can see the graph of the number of new cases each day, I expect those to go up by the end of this week as the high case counts continue to go up. This past Friday, our planning team uploaded a record number of cases of COVID-19 for a single day at 156. The highest that we've reached to date previously was 153 back in May. If we scroll a little further down, you'll see the cumulative case rates per 10,000 residents, with 208 for Ramsey County, and you can see next door in Hennepin County, they're at 226. And the weekly case rate, which is right next to that, is went from 6.3 up to 9.1, so we are following this closely. You can see that we've added quite a few tests if you scroll down a little bit, likely due to all of the community testing that we've offered, including 3 days of testing last week by the State Emergency Operations Center. The weekly positivity rate had gone down to 3.9% and is now back up to 4.9%. We're just under that 5% goal, but since there is a lag in the data, I suspect we'll continue to see this rise based on the number of people who have tested positive recently. If we can scroll down to the cumulative totals, you'll see that we have now over 11,751 people who have tested positive to date in Ramsey County. That's an additional 1,100 plus more people in the last 2 weeks, and unfortunately, we've lost a total of 343 people in Ramsey County. If we can move on over to the testing page. We've had a lot of testing recently in Ramsey County. We continue to offer free COVID-19 testing for community on Saturdays at our Aldrich Arena site. We'll be there again each Saturday this month from 1 to 6 p.m. There'll be 2 testing events at New Hope Baptist Church, the 15th and 16th, which is a Thursday and Friday, and at United Church of God on October 29th and 30th, also a Thursday, Friday. Both sites will be from 2 to 6 p.m. each day. These testing sites are in partnership with our Medical Reserve Corps. We couldn't do any of this without them. Black Nurses Rock, Stair Step Foundation, Minnesota Department of Health, the State Emergency Operations Center, and M Health Fairview. We're always grateful to the staff within Ramsey County Parks and Rec who continue to be fantastic partners at Aldrich Arena. This past weekend, thanks to our community liaisons, our community partners, our communications team, and all the work of everyone who are getting people to our testing site, we've tested a record number, 1,250 people on Saturday in 5 hours. That's 250 people an hour with minimal wait times. We're really leading the Metro and the state in how to do community testing well. We've also reached over 10,000 tests at our county-run sites since August. Congrats to our team. Commissioners, if you have the time and the ability to see it in action, we're happy to host you, show you how it works, and even give you something to do if you want to help out on site. And also thank the staff and Medical Reserve Corps who are working so hard each weekend. And one last testing update. We recently tested 195 people at Higher Ground in Mary Hall based on a small cluster of previous positive tests. The fact that that many people trusted the team, the Mary Hall staff, the Catholic Charity staff, and got tested says a lot. We partnered with Minnesota Department of Health and Hennepin Healthcare did the swabbing. We only found 2 people to be positive within that shelter setting, which is fantastic. As a reminder, our testing sites are becoming very popular, so to make sure you can get an appointment, please register online at our testing site for our upcoming events. And again, you can go to www.ramseycounty.us/COVID and click on the testing link. I will now turn it back over to County Manager O'Connor.
Thank you, Kathy, for that update. I will take this moment to also remind everyone to please get their flu shot. We'll keep saying that every day as we go forward. We've had some events for employees within the organization. There are many other ways that individuals can get those flu shots. Please get your flu shots so you mitigate one of the many risks as we head into the fall and the winter. I'm going to ask Director of Finance Alex Kutza to come up and provide a high-level update on our COVID financials. We last week had our financial status report, which is a regular quarterly update that the organization does with the county manager and the finance director around all financial standing across the org. Since COVID is a large part of that this year, I asked her if she'd be willing to share a few thoughts and reflections on where we stand, what we've spent with you all this morning.
Good morning. I just have a brief update, as Ryan indicated. Since we have data almost through the end of September now, payroll is through September 18th. The rest of the data is up through October 1st. For COVID, first I'm going to report on COVID, then I'm going to talk about overall where we are from a financial perspective for the county. So for COVID spending to date, we have spent $22.2 million paid out, so checks actually paid, on non-personnel. We have also spent $9.7 million in payroll that has been coded to COVID through the time reporting system. We have about $31.3 million in contract obligations related to COVID. So the overall total, assuming all of those contracts will be spent, is $63.2 million in contract and paid to date, including personnel. I'll pause for 1 second if you have questions on that before I move to overall county finances.
Madam Chair.
I'm sorry, Commissioner McGuire, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just thank you so much for that, Finance Director Kutza. I'm wondering, can you just give us examples of what non-personnel is? I mean, I think it's food, and I mean, just tell us what that would, just examples of that.
Sure, thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner McGuire, that's a great question. So examples of that are everything from PPE that's purchased in public health and across through our logistics. It is the food contracts that we have to provide food in the community. It is the homelessness response for the most part. That's a large piece of it. It's also our financial assistance area and workforce solutions, all of the areas that you've approved individually. Those contracts, the small business relief funds are within there. I'm trying to think of other things, public safety, direct care, pretty much everything except for the actual personnel time that's coded to COVID.
Thank you so much. It's an amazing indication of all the work that we're doing in so many different areas. Thank you for reminding all of us what that all is.
Absolutely. And the report will actually be done. I was hoping to have it done for today, but it'll be done tomorrow. I'll make sure it's posted online, and I will also email it to you directly so you can see it. It's been posted about every 2 weeks so far on our website. Okay, so moving on to the overall summary, as Ryan indicated, we have been doing quarterly summaries with our controllers and deputy county managers that just take a look at how are we doing as a county. I've asked for these more often this year because it is a year with a lot of volatility and change, unlike prior years. So we actually just had an update for the end of August, which you typically wouldn't see because it's not a quarter end. But that gives us a good indication as we go into the last 4 months of the year of where we are. So great news is we are going to land in the black. We are projecting to land with a surplus for the county. One area where we do have a deficit is in the revenue in parks. We have had challenges in parks because of the revenue loss due to COVID. That's just part of where we are as a county and a society right now. So they have about a $1.8 million revenue shortfall overall, and that is being covered or absorbed or taken care of by the rest of the county. So we still will end the year in the black even with that revenue shortfall. Questions on that?
I know I see a lot of very happy faces that we have been able to manage to ending in the black during such a trying year as this. And it does mean that all of us applaud the work that you and all of our staff have done to get us to a point where we can project that. Thank you for your careful watch.
Great.
And I do have a question or comment from Commissioner Reinhardt.
Thank you. And yes, it is all very good news, and really due to the careful planning that took place and the quick turnaround that we had with our staff as far as the direct services and the services that are provided to our constituents. I do want to point out to people as they are listening, we don't actually have a surplus. We have funds that can be used to do our business, but unlike revenue coming in that's in excess, that is not the case. Yes, there's CARES funds and we have to spend those down, but again, it's different than what people would traditionally think of as a surplus, that we collected too much. It's about how it's being spent and what we need to do with it. Clearly, the CARES funds and more, because we still have revenue loss, not just in one area, but in others as well, that we need to deal with. And that's why the additional stimulus is going to be so important to us. So I just wanted to clarify that, because I think that people listen and they may assume that it means the same as it does at the state level, where they bring in sales tax and a number of other things as well. And it's not the same. Thank you.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Reinhardt, I'll just, to that point, I think in some ways the easiest way to say it is we're not currently projecting to end the year in deficit, which is probably the largest question you may all receive. And so I think if that helps to clarify that piece. I think part of why we wanted to give the financial update today is a few reasons. One, for anyone watching to understand the process that the CFO is leading to ensure that the organization is following all areas of the ups and downs through an extremely volatile year. This works well during regular years. It matters even more during years like the current, and that we're not waiting to see what happens or just simply projecting it. Number two, to hear that we remain projected and are comfortable enough saying it out loud that we do not project to end the year in a deficit. A lot can happen between now and the end of the year. I probably should throw that qualifier out there just so that you don't get to replay this video in 3 months and remind me of what we said. But you know, that is a testament to departments managing their staff resources, to working with finance, to looking at every dime and every position we fill to make sure we do our response. The third thing is, absent the CARES money, there is no way we'd be able to deliver the financial report that we just did. And seeing as how COVID doesn't end in December, this remains an extremely important dynamic as we head into the winter, where the continued plea for help is both real, and hopefully this demonstrates that. The sizable spend that Alex laid out this morning really highlights the need to continue to see resources come in to be able to ensure an adequate response. And we'll talk some of that as we transition into our third topic. Alex, do you want to add any final comments from your perspective?
No.
Before you do, let me please call on Commissioner Jim McDonough.
Thanks, Chair Carter. Al, could you talk, you highlighted, I think, about 63 of the CARES funding that has spent or allocated. Could you talk about the remaining balance in CARES fund, what that looks like between the end of the year?
Sure. Madam Chair, Commissioner McDonough, thanks for the question. So we received $96 million in CARES Act funding total. I do want to say that this nuance is that is total COVID spending, so it includes CARES funding, but it also includes other grants that we've received from the state related to homelessness. We received some from the federal government in our direct care areas for provider relief funds. We've received a number of other small grants that have come before this board and that you've accepted. So it is beyond the $96 million. We have another $5 to $7 million of other funding. So we are projecting to spend, well, I'm going to tell you, we are going to try and spend all of our CARES funding. That is our goal, and we are focused on making sure, because there are needs in this community, that we are responding to that. That is why every 2 weeks we are posting a financial report on our spending, and we are working right now with the leaders in the main areas in financial assistance, workforce, food, and small business relief about how we make sure we do that through the end of the year and making good projections on that. So we anticipate that all $96 million of the CARES Act spending will be spent. That said, there's new Treasury guidance coming out like almost every week. And so we are having to respond to that regularly and making sure that we pivot and do that properly. And in some ways that gives us more flexibility in how we spend the money, and in some ways it makes it a little bit harder. So we'll continue to monitor that.
Thank you.
Um,
Go ahead,
Could I do a
Commissioner.
follow-up? Can you help
Please do.
understand how, because I know, I mean, the guidance coming on, like you say, point out, sometimes it gives you difficulty, sometimes it actually to adjust in a way that might, wasn't planned for. What is the process for that? Are there points in time throughout that they're signing off on our spend, or is it going to be one big sign off once we're through the end of the year, and we won't know if of our expenses are eligible until that one big sign off?
Madam Chair, Commissioner McDonough, also a great question. So number one, we have hired a firm, a consulting firm that works in this revenue maximization, and they are very good at what they do. And we are using them to make sure that when we have items that are questionable or that we're like, I'm not sure, and they're doing this work all over the country, we test it with them, and they're giving us good guidance. So that's number one. Number two, we are turning in the second report to the Treasury on October 13th. It is due. We turned in one that covered March through June earlier in the month, and we have the second one that will cover June through September, well, it'll cover the entire period, March through September, due on October 18th. So they are due, or 13th. They are doing reporting at the federal level of how much money has been spent, and we are able to turn in our year-to-date expenses and have them look at it. And I'll be remiss if I don't give a shout out to Renee Vogt, who is working very hard to make sure that those reports get turned in.
Madam Chair, Commissioner McDonough, one follow-up piece to that too. I mean, it is not exactly clear on the back end if and how funds will be audited at the federal level. And so we're taking as conservative a tracking approach as possible, assuming that there will be an audit and that we have a paper trail and a justifiable one at that for every expense. But there has been no guidance to date, to the best of my knowledge, on what to expect as we move out of 2020 and the federal government seeks to ensure effective accountability for the funds that were put out.
Thank you. Commissioner Maris Castillo.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wondered, in that kind of line on how spending is going, do we have any particular departments or areas that we're concerned about? I know our goal is, and we're trying to get it all spent in time. I'm just wondering if there's another approach or there's an area that we need to, add some emphasis to.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Matas Castillo, that's a good question. We are meeting on that, and there are areas, particularly, we haven't seen the uptake in the financial assistance area that we were hoping for. Part of that is the eviction moratorium, and part of it is us learning how to get that money out quickly. So we are trying to pivot in that space and think about how we work in a different way, possibly with landlords and other ways that we can get that money, because we know it's needed for our families in the community. So we have a work group that's working on how we spend that money. The other area where we have some, like not as much as projected, is in the homelessness, and we are looking at ways to pivot to make sure that we are responding to the needs, both working with what is the community telling us that they need, and also where are we seeing spending increase and how we get that money kind of pivoted into those areas so that we make sure we're responsive.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. That is all of our questions. You can go on.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Final thought on that. And as we pivot in those two areas that Director Kutza just mentioned, we're not suggesting to pivot outside of those areas. It's to continue to spend within those areas of guidance. But it's things like, if individuals are not applying for financial assistance, is there a way to work directly with landlords to accomplish the same ends? And we're working to see how we can do that right now. So more to come, but we expect to keep the money in the spending buckets as previously prescribed by the board at this time. We have one more topic today to discuss around homelessness. It's a big topic, and so looking forward to talking with all of you and hearing thoughts, feedback, comments, and ideas as we plan in real time together. Yesterday, there was an announcement from mHealth Fairview about system-wide changes within their system, one aspect of which had specific relevance to Ramsey County. The element with specific relevance to Ramsey County dealt with the Bethesda Hospital located up near the Capitol down in St. Paul. And so today I hope to spend a few minutes talking about the process and planning right now to date, where it goes, get input here from the board as we move toward a potential or a request for board action a week from today, and continue to work in real time to address the significant issue of housing instability and homelessness in front of us. First, on the process side, I think there's so much swirling. It's a question of, so what is today to next week and beyond? Today is an opportunity to talk through the planning to date that has occurred since we were notified of the availability of the Bethesda Hospital as a potential site to address homelessness this winter, as well as beyond, in a long-term lease arrangement that would actually take us into the spring months of 2022. So it would provide us with coverage across 2 winters of expanded support in emergency shelter, as well as the summer in between those 2. Next week, the long-term lease agreement would come before this board, and a request for the board to consider that long-term lease agreement and its alignment to the vision and values of Ramsey County, the broader system response, the financial figures, and how it all works. So today is a little bit more on the planning and discussion side. Next week would be the long-term lease agreement. And then between then and December 1st is the pieces to move beyond securing a site to the implementation of said program at that location. So it's the continued pieces around programmatic planning and implementation, service delivery partners, actual launch. There's a lot of work between today and December 1st that needs to occur to allow all that to come together. I use December 1st as a tentative, not concrete date. There are many moving parts here, obviously, but I want to anchor you with some understanding of the timeline that we are discussing as we come here today. This is not a November 1st agreement. It takes some time to get everything together, but it's also not a February 1st agreement. And so that's kind of why I'm using the date of December 1st. We'll continue to have a multidisciplinary team from across the county with partners as well from the city and our nonprofit partners that will be working to leave today and begin to fill in the remaining gaps and questions around the entire planning effort in place. That multidisciplinary team will have a group of Ramsey County leaders in it that I'll continue to meet with at every step along the way as well. We plan to schedule briefings to the PAGS, the Policy Advisory Group Subcommittee working on homelessness, with the commissioners in particular that are a part of that work, so that we have a continued conversation and connection to the board throughout this process, and so that we can enlist the help of our commissioners in the steps ahead as we try to all put all hands on deck to see us bring a plan forward by December 1st. I want to give thanks up front to Joanna Berg, Deputy County Manager, and Jean Kruger, Property Management Director, who have been working shoulder to shoulder with Bethesda to bring the opportunity forward here today, with mHealth Fairview regarding the Bethesda site, to bring an opportunity forward. Like I said, this materialized through longstanding work with our community partners, but it's come together on a rather rapid timeline. And so while there's been a vision and discussion at the board around housing stability, the need for expanded beds, when these things drop in front of you, leaders have got to step in and help us bring together tangible ideas and paths forward. And because of their hard work, we're able to do that today. So in terms of brief background, we have been working in close collaboration for a number of months with the City of St. Paul, seeking to expand shelter by at least 100 beds to respond to the unprecedented rise in unsheltered homelessness and housing instability we see around us. Some of that is related to COVID-19. Not all of it is related to COVID-19. And I think it's important to recognize the issue of housing instability has been one that this board has been working on for many years, before a global pandemic came to our doorstep. However, that global pandemic further exacerbated already tenuous economic circumstances and has pushed more people into homelessness, unsheltered homelessness, or broader housing instability. It's also important to note that emergency shelter is not a sufficient nor on its own effective solution to solving housing instability. And we need to continue our conversations with community economic development and the money that this board has discussed regarding affordable housing to the tune of $8.9 million coming from Ramsey County in the proposed 2021 budget that will directly address housing instability further along in the continuum in the areas of affordable housing units that the community needs so that people don't fall into homelessness at any point in time. Since in the middle of September, this opportunity became tangible related to the Bethesda site to potentially expand by 100 beds in St. Paul for this winter. There have been approximately 300 plus individuals sleeping outside on any given night through the reports that we have currently received. So this would be a significant but not complete approach to addressing that issue that we continue to see in front of us. The current site under consideration is currently a licensed 252 hospital bed site, and it leads to some sort of capacity for the work we're discussing around 100 to 125 individuals. Could be slightly smaller than that. As we design program, we just want to be thoughtful and make sure, first and foremost, that the program is effective and human and person focused first. The site is approximately primarily surrounded by green space as well as institutional and office space. There's ample parking for staff and clients. The area is well served by multiple transit routes and is well known throughout the community. The building and the physical plant are in very good condition, which is part of what makes it a good potential site. The facility has multiple elevator banks, which matters. Some of our sites have one elevator, and that's a real redundancy challenge. This has multiple staircases and wings that can be secured off or thought about in different ways as we program. Patient rooms and offices are large. The facility has a sufficient number of toilets and showers for use. There are also laundry and kitchen dining facilities on site that provide opportunities that most sites simply do not carry. We envision the operation of a few shelter programs potentially that could address immediate and significant community needs. One program would likely include new low barrier shelter beds. We know that one of the largest challenges in our system are individuals sometimes even choose to stay outside because of the barriers that the system often creates as a part of why they choose to stay outside. And so we have said for a while, eliminating barriers to shelter is a part of the process. So these low barrier beds recognize that many residents are chemically dependent. It would aim to create a safe environment and one that can be created for those who may need programmatic supports on site and are currently not well served through the existing beds on any night in Ramsey County or St. Paul. Complementing the emergency overnight shelter model at our safe space operated by Model Cities, which has proven to be a significant enhancement to the broader system of homelessness supports in Ramsey County. Homeless guests would be able to use an individual room for multiple nights to provide stability to them in a moment of need. Meeting space and day space for case managers and outreach would also be available and programmed in coordination with service providers and expand upon the aligned service delivery model that we've been working to employ at Higher Ground St. Paul with Catholic Charities. So how do we learn from and build on where we have started to see success? We know that when service delivery is diffuse for homeless individuals and we send them to multiple sites to seek services, it is likely not going to work well. Over time, we have seen that repeatedly, and this provides an opportunity to learn from our continued growth and serve people where they are at in their moment of need. In a separate area of the site, we're also looking at the site potentially becoming the county's primary respite care site. When COVID-19 started, that was Mary Hall. Because of an immediate need for Mary Hall to become a site for emergency shelter to address community need, Boys Totem Town has been serving as our emergency respite site. That is still not an ideal site. It wasn't then, and it hasn't been since, although I want to commend everyone for their work and for the neighborhood for helping to support that as our current site. This provides an opportunity to use a different building that is better situated to be the primary respite care site, which would allow Boys Totem Town to then be part of a continuity of operations plan without having to be used day to day. But if something were to go wrong, we have, again, redundancy built into our system, which is one of the biggest challenges to this entire process. We have lacked continuity of operation since the transition of Mary Hall earlier this year. This will provide us opportunities to develop continuity of operations plans for food delivery and preparation, COVID respite, hotel programs, and potentially other types of service delivery needs as well. We do not have the backups we currently would like to have as winter comes before us, and this would provide one sense of breathing room as we look to ensure that we've done all we can. The long-term lease will be the first piece of this that will come before the board. It would seek to provide space to the county, as I mentioned, throughout the winter of 2021 and 2022. There is also a need then to be reaching out and evaluating needs to find partners who can help us in soliciting shelter, food, and related services with other organizations. Ramsey County cannot do this work alone. The leadership shown by the board and the work of the organization with the community has provided an opportunity, but we need the community to come along with us and help us bring where we are into an actual vision. There are a number of service delivery partnerships that we hope to explore. We would like to leverage the county board and the subcommittee, the policy advisory group subcommittee, as an opportunity to explore those partnerships in full over the coming weeks as a part of ensuring an effective community response is available at the Bethesda site. Ramsey County would be the holder of any future lease with M Health Fairview as a part of this process and would ultimately become the lead financial contributor on the physical space and programming side. The City of St. Paul, at the same time, has committed to continuing their efforts to focus on expansions into day space supports, which we know are a significant community need, particularly for individuals experiencing homelessness, and any additional encampment management needs as winter approaches. There are financial tags to those issues as well. And we have made it clear that if the board chooses to expand into this space on a financial spot when it comes to day space or other additional encampment spaces, we would need someone else to be the one leading those financial agreements. The county does not feel comfortable saying that they'd be able to expand into those areas. During these remaining planning phases, we also seek to work with this board to reach out to our state funding partners to ask for additional support to help us bring this to fruition and not ask that Ramsey County taxpayers alone continue to seek to expand shelter to support the broader need for regional and statewide solutions to housing instability. We look forward to those conversations with our state partners in the days and weeks ahead and appreciate all their work to date that has signaled a willingness to want to be a part of a solution. In conclusion, this opportunity for expansion is both an incredible opportunity, but it is also a challenge based on funding and timeline issues associated with implementation and sustainability. I don't want to come here and pretend that it's just all opportunity. It is opportunity to keep people sleeping inside throughout the coldest months in the state of Minnesota. It is an opportunity to safely deliver housing stability services during a moment of COVID-19. It is a challenge to us to build a budget that ensures we can commit to a sustainable approach through April of 2022. I need to acknowledge to you that even while planning for that, there will be no approach that takes us beyond April of 2022 in what we are able to string together as a part of a financing plan. The lease, you can expect, will come back between $2 and $3 million as a part of the operation of this site to give you a sense of magnitude of what we're talking about. And it fits well within the broader financial ecosystem of a cost-effective and service delivery effective site, potentially for Ramsey County. We know that additional questions and conversation have already come your way. We expect more in the days ahead, and we recognize that because of a timeline of announcements that involve 900 individuals that we found out about through the broader announcement from M Health Fairview. There were reasons why the county needed to quietly be a part of listening to this plan as it came together during September and then bringing today before the board a conversation and then next week a potential request for board action. Madam Chair, I'm here to answer any questions you might have. Director Hadeen from the public health end could answer any questions you might have from there. Gene Kruger from property management is here to answer any questions you all might have. And just broadly, thank you to the county board for setting a direction early on our continued work in this space, which allowed us the opportunity to be able to move when opportunities present themselves at unknown moments. And thank you to M Health Fairview for continuing to want to be a community partner with the county and many other stakeholders as we work to ensure that those in need are served throughout this winter and beyond.
Well, thank you very, very much for this introduction to what is a huge opportunity and also challenge for us fully in line with the discussions that we have been having around the management of unsheltered homelessness in our community, and particularly during this time. So thank you for embracing the opportunity, bringing it before us. And I have a number of hands up, as clearly this is of great interest to us. I'll start with Commissioner Matas-Castillo, who's been quite patient during this presentation. Commissioner Matas-Castillo.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, County Manager O'Connor, for a really great synopsis of all the work that's going on. I thought I would just add a few details because I think it's really important as we've been doing this work, and Commissioner McDonough and I on the Policy Action Group, along with other partners, really wrestling with how do we address the issue of homelessness. I think the areas I want to most highlight is that there's no one solution that meets the need of the entire community, which is why our approach has been very broad. We also heard from our public health director, Kathy Adine, earlier about the very low numbers of this particular population of COVID, which is a testament to the really great work staff has done. To only find 2 in a huge setting of congregate living potentially really demonstrates on how well we have been responsive to the needs of COVID. In that particular work, and we have lost only 2. Every loss of life is tragic, but considering the wave and the amount of COVID, we have lost 2 people who have experienced homelessness to COVID. And so it really is a testament to the great work that everyone in the county and our partners have been doing. And in part of that is that we had to depopulate our shelters to accommodate for social distancing. I want to remind people, and Commissioner McDonough says this so well, so often to keep us in line, but in the approach to depopulate in order to provide for distancing was really right-sizing the size of shelter. Our shelters were overcrowded to begin with. And so we depopulated. We have put 285 people each night into hotels across the city. We have stood up additional shelter that didn't previously exist. And so our capacity has grown. And still, we have 300 people sleeping outside each night in Ramsey County, most in St. Paul, but also in Roseville and Maplewood. We're seeing those numbers grow. And so we really are wrestling with how do we do this. So for several months, we have had staff looking for potential sites to expand, and they have looked all over, far and wide across the county, many of which required significant investment to bring them up to standards that we could house people there. There were buildings, people often say, well, we have all these vacant buildings, but those vacant buildings don't have shower facilities, they don't have adequate bathroom facilities, they don't have kitchens and eating facilities. And so the opportunity for Bethesda to come to us and say, we have this potential, though it's tragic to lose a medical facility in our community, that loss will be felt. Good can come of it, and that the repurposing of this building to me is very exciting, especially because it's turnkey ready with very little need for any kind of investment other than us dreaming and thinking about programming and the potential use of that facility over time, that if we start it this way, this fall, looking in one particular way, we can adjust and change as the needs of the community change. I think about the commercial kitchen in the building and dining facilities. As you know, we've been doing a lot of food resourcing, and there could be opportunity in the future to say we hire people experiencing homelessness to prepare the food that then serves others. And so there is potential for growth over time in a building like this. And so I'm really excited about this. All of that said, though, I also know that our community has gotten so used to us doing such community outreach that this feels a little backwards. And so I've heard from many community members who are saying, wait a minute, you just sprung this on this. And I think it's really important. One is that I'm so glad community has gotten used to us doing community outreach for so well that it's an expectation, which is really great. So that means we're doing really good work. In this particular instance, because of, as County Manager O'Connor mentioned, because there were personnel issues involved from the Fairview side about this particular site, we weren't able to have that pre-community engagement about this site, but we have been doing community engagement all along around homelessness. So even though we didn't have a site dedicated, we have heard repeatedly from community that we have to do more, that we have to expand, that we have to have many alternatives and choices for our homeless community. And we have been working with people who are homeless to help us design and dream what that could be for a possible solution. So it might feel a little backwards to maybe the immediate neighbors. They didn't hear about it. Maybe they're surprised about the site. But we have been doing community engagement all along. So I don't want anyone to feel like, we're working outside of our norm. And so to me, this is really exciting. It's an opportunity. We will be doing more community engagement. We're reaching out to the neighbors. Commissioner Ortega and I are doing a town hall meeting for the neighbors around the building, since it's right, it's in Commissioner Ortega's district. I'm across the street, and our neighbors are impacted. And so we are doing that on Thursday evening at 5 o'clock online for communities and neighbors. So I just wanted to share that and to say kudos to the staff for being available and ready. And Bethesda was able to come, Fairview was able to come to us because they knew we were doing this work already, because we've been out there. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you all very much.
Thanks so much for pointing that out regarding community outreach. This is an opportunity that actually fell into our need, and we would not have had time to do that sort of outreach even without the personnel issues. Thank you so much. And next, I do have Commissioner Ortega in line. Commissioner Ortega.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I'd like to echo everything that Trista just stated, and we have to seize on opportunities, and this was an opportunity. We know we're facing the winter, and we're trying to address the homeless situation in Ramsey County, and this seems to be an opportune moment here for us to address this issue. But moving forward, I do want for us to have some sort of communication plan with the community, so they could get, from now on moving forward, a sense of the direction we're heading and the issues we're trying to address. And, what are the expectations do they have? I mean, it is their community, it is their neighborhood. They want to feel safe. They should have, part of that is knowing what's coming, how do they connect with us, etc. So I look forward to the town hall meeting with Trista, and I hopefully, moving forward, the county could be more thoughtful in terms of how we communicate. Obviously, the situation lent itself for us to be unable to communicate what was going on because it was so sudden, and Fairview had to deal with the employees, their own employees, and on their own notification process. So looking forward to engaging with the community, and moving forward, we need to make sure we connect with them, because I'm sure we're going to be facing a lot of issues in terms of the operation of the facility. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And thank you, Commissioner Ortega. Next, Commissioner Reinhardt.
Thank you. Well, I too am very glad that we have this opportunity. I think that it's not a surprise really to anyone that so many things have changed because of COVID. But without the partnerships that we have built in this community for several years now, this opportunity would not have presented itself, in my opinion. Our staff, our board, everyone working together. And I think it's also important to note that, just as, our lives have changed as far as medicine, doing things more virtually, and really trying to make changes to how people interact, how people can care for themselves. and not always being in a physical office to do that. Because I think the entire healthcare system, just as our service delivery system, has changed. And there are adjustments that are being made specifically for this particular time with COVID-19, but also that are broader than that, even in our operations as a county. There are some things that will go back to being more in person and some things that won't, because we found that we have better efficiencies and it's better for the people that we're serving to not have them traveling to downtown St. Paul or to one of our other locations. But I mostly wanted to highlight the fact that we have these partnerships that we have worked on for so long. And I'm just very thrilled, really, that we were able to pull something together. Again, different because it wasn't run by our process, but rather really being cognizant of what M. Fairview had to deal with. And I think that they are also handling that in a very good way. And as far as the employees and trying to redeploy much as we did so that we didn't have layoffs. But, you know, they go through that process and obviously we're respectful of that. But it's the base that we have from these partnerships that has allowed this to come forward. And I just wanted to say thank you to staff and thank you to our partners.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Commissioner Reinhardt. Commissioner McDonough?
So I was told my sound's up. Can you hear? Is it sound all right? Or okay, good. I've got where Commissioner Ortega left off on, and everybody's raised somewhat to the point on the community engagement piece. I just want to remind everybody that there's numbers of community that are interested in this and need to be engaging. And even though there's not a lot of residential in that area, there is a lot of businesses in that area that operate in buildings, and making sure that we're engaging with the businesses, people that are in the buildings, is going to be really important. So let's make sure that we're thinking about who community is and in those opportunities to engage with. Listening to everybody, and everybody's got great points. I think the piece I want to bring up is the piece that's probably the hardest to solve. And this is where I have the most concern, is we're building a sustainable infrastructure to continue as we have addressing homelessness, instead of actually eradicating and solving the issue of housing people in our community. I'll be a good example about, we always talk about it around in your comments, just in your comments, but 3 years ago, Catholic Charities and Union Gospel finished overnight shelter in the community. This community came together to raise almost $100 million for Catholic Charities, do a new facility to expand their programming with the Opportunity Center. We stepped up with staff down there to make connections to help people get stabilized and move forward and have economic activity in our community in this way. All good stuff. Years ago, there was a gap coming into the winter, seen it, and we brought people together, and in the end, we said, you know what, we've got to open up more shelter in the evening to get through this winter. And we did it with everybody saying, this is a one-year solution. You can't accept this as a solution. We're going to do this for 1 year. And the city helped pay for it, the county helped pay for it, the community pay for it, businesses pay for it. We had a consortium of partners and stakeholders that came together to do that. Before we closed that first year, we knew we were going to have to open up the second year because not enough had been done to help alleviate and direct people and the growth of homelessness, but also bring people that have term homelessness to safe and stable housing. And when we did that, we extended 2 months on each end, and we added more shelter beds in the evening, so it grew. But we continue to have funding partners to help support that. We had Catholic Charities that ran it for us, and we continued to do that. We did that again, county taking a leadership role in seeing that we cannot let people suffer in our community, and we need to make sure that we're attending to that. But every time we did that, we said this cannot be the solution to long-term housing in our community. We need solutions. We barely got through year 2, and we already were working on a plan for 3, where the county proposal was to open that shelter up year-round, and we're the only funding partner. Catholic Charities, a lot of demands on their system we're no longer able to bring in. So fortunately, we went to the community and we did bring model cities in, and a new partner to engage, and it's out extremely well. But again, we're going deeper in solidifying an infrastructure that continues to support homelessness in our community as an accepted way for folks in our community to live. And then COVID hit, and of course we had to do a lot of things to adjust, and social distancing and all these things that we've done, and we've done it in a great way, and we've done it with good partners. And fortunately for the CARES funding, we've been able to help secure some funding. But here again, now we're in a position of trying to manage a crisis today in our community. And this is a really good solution to that. All the things that you highlighted, Ryan, and a kitchen and individual rooms, all those things are great things, and they're perfect for a solution for that crisis we have today. But we need to start seeing things change on the others as we move along here parallel, so that we're stemming the number of folks entering homelessness, we're keeping people housed. We've just had some conversations with our association and, representation for evictions, and how do we grow that? How do we support that? It's not always money. There's money attached to that, but it's not big dollars. St. Paul just came out and sent a strong message that they're very supportive of the tiny home solution that the settlement folks have been working on for years with our faith-based community. But they need changes in building codes and zoning issues to be able to make that. We need to see those changes happening parallel, right? It can't just be us as a county continuing up with property tax dollars, with our efforts, with the creativity of our leadership, and being able to solve these issues, to bring partners to the table, and partners do come to the table. And I'm appreciative that we've got this proposal in front of us that, it brings some. I could sleep easier knowing that people are going to sleep easier in our community as the night gets colder. But I can't sleep easier knowing that we have really not made any progress on stemming the tide of homelessness in the last 3 years, other than the county continuing to invest more money in a crisis solution that cannot and should not be in our community. Just on some text here with a friend of mine at AMC, they're one of the community partners, right? They're going through issues right now because there is a large contingency of homeless that kind of use that area as their day service program because we're not meeting the needs for that. The whole thing here is it hasn't gone unnoticed that this is what from the Capitol, right? One of our partners that we need, feet from where the governor's office is, one of our partners that we really need to step up, because this is a transient population. These are not just St. Paul or Ramsey County residents. This needs to be a regional and statewide solution, and so continue to pound that. I wanted to just take a moment to really highlight so that we really see how much we've done and how good a job we've done in managing a crisis. But what we've done is to bring more dollars in to meet those needs as that crisis goes, stem the crisis itself, not get people into housing, stabilize with supports for mental or chemical dependence, some of those drugs that drive people into homelessness. So thank you for patience and listening to me and continuing to raise this. But we really do need to start seeing some progress in parallel efforts here. And I don't know what that for this upcoming legislative session, but we need to be thinking of it too. And it need to be in advancing those issues, working with St. Paul on some issues for tiny, or working with the Bar Association on representation for evictions. I firmly believe if we have that, we will prevent evictions, because landlords just send out these eviction notices knowing these people have no resources to present themselves. And they just have, if they know that there's representation, they're going to be more in working with those folks before they actually evict them and put them out on the street. So thanks, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to share my thoughts here. I look forward to continuing to solutions and partners that help us stem the tide of homelessness, the house folk and homelessness in our community.
Thank you, Commissioner McDonough, and for the comments that help us stare this in the face, not just as an opportunity, which it is for this time, but as a long-term concern that will require a long-term solution to be able to sustain it. We appreciate your reminders. Commissioner McGuire.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Commissioner McDonough, for reminding all of us that we really do want to be in a mode that runs in a prevention mode that runs in parallel with these efforts. You are so articulate on that issue, and I appreciate you bringing that up. I appreciate all the comments of my previous colleagues on I'm grateful that we have a solution in this crisis that we're in. I agree with the community engagement that we're needing to do now that this decision is before us, and I appreciate Commissioner Matas-Castillo and Ortega having a community conversation on Thursday night with the neighbors of that. And I also, as many of us are hearing from the businesses and the community in that area, that they are wanting to be a part of that discussion and are concerned about what's already happening in that area. And so want to make sure there's going to be resources to work with with their concerns. So thank you for all of that. And like I said, I'm grateful that we have a crisis solution here. I'm going to ask a few different questions, and this is about maybe the broader decisions that M Health Fairview is making, and what that means for our residents, being that Bethesda is one of the 3 long-term acute care facilities. And so I just wonder if where our people will go that need long-term acute care then if this is being closed down. I mean, I understand that's a decision that's not ours. That's their decision, and they have now made the building available to us. So we're taking advantage of that. But I am just curious about the impact that those decisions are having on our community. And I know with St. Joe's Hospital closing or not closing, but transitioning, that we need to have the long-term mental health facilities. And I know that they're aware of these, and I'm just wanting to acknowledge this and wondering if you have, just to make sure that we keep that in the forefront too, that we have these populations of people that are going to need care now that these decisions are being made by these healthcare facilities. So, and then along with that, it's the workforce question about how these employees that are being affected by these layoffs, what that means for a number of them are Ramsey County residents, and how we're going to be working to help with that. So if you could address any of those concerns, I would appreciate it. I know that this is these are ongoing issues, and we'll be continuing to work on them. But if you would like to comment on that.
Madam Chair, Commissioner McGuire, and I won't be able to satisfactorily probably answer all of it. I'll acknowledge that up front. And I also want to point out that people's health and well-being links to some of the previous comments that you and your colleagues have made about what leads to housing instability, financial insecurity. And so we do need to be thoughtful about those changes and potential impacts. We have not been a part of the planning for the broader M Health Fairview system changes, and we all got to read about them yesterday as their organization adjusts to COVID and the changing financial and operational landscape that presents. I feel like anything I would say would be a disservice to their evaluation that they put out yesterday, which is a better explanation than, it would just be my secondhand interpretation. There are clearly plans that were laid out about how they are working to shift care within the East Metro, within St. Paul and surrounding communities to ensure that they continue to have both a COVID support system of care as well as a broader system of health and well-being. I think places like the East Metro Mental Health Roundtable is a great spot for that mental health conversation to continue. They've been a partner there. Commissioner McDonough has been on that group for a long time, along with Chair Carter attending. That feels like an appropriate spot for some of those conversations to continue, as well as I know they have been in conversation, they being mHealth Fairview, with the city of St. Paul throughout the process. And so I appreciate their partnership and openness through that part, but I really don't know that I can add anything more beyond that.
And I appreciate that. Thank you. I think I just want to acknowledge, and I know that they're working on that and that they acknowledge these issues. And I just want to say we'll be in partnership with them and others on how we address these issues. Because of course, as we know, one decision like this definitely creates other touch points along the way. It bulges out somewhere else, and so we'll be seeing that, and we need to be obviously working on the issues, and especially the workforce issues that are going to be created with this. So thank you for that, and thank you for this work that needs to get done.
Thank you, Commissioner McGuire, also for underscoring our needs to continue to reach out with our broader community to ensure the continuity of care in those areas that are critical and important to us. And as we work also to understand that the loss of this hospital is a loss for our community, as are the jobs that will be impacted. And our hope, of course, is to have a vibrant community where all are valued and thrive. So we'll continue to work in that respect, even though this challenge is meeting a potential opportunity for us to locate services there. I want to, as we wrap up this discussion, recognize that County Manager, you may have other pieces to this update to finish with, but just also to once more underscore that there is a lot of reaching out. You know, this is a more sudden opportunity than perhaps we could have anticipated. It meets a need for us, and as we explore this need, there is a lot of reaching out that has to happen to the broad community around the care issues, around the workforce issues, to the immediate community around the site location and the expectations for that site, including residents and businesses, to our partners with respect to the ability for us to meet an immediate need, but also find opportunity to meet the needs that have been with us already and will be with us after COVID, to manage to housing instability and homelessness within our community with solutions that can be supported, not just by Ramsey County, but of course by our state partner, as this is not simply a local issue, as well as by other partners in our community, as it does require that we all share together, hand in hand, walking through this solution. I want to thank also all of us for the conversations we've had around this, to the extent that you know our resoluteness to work forward in working to meet this solution. So to all of the commissioners for your steadfast support in this area, to our partners in the city and our other communities, and certainly as we look forward to balancing this with opportunity for the future, to all who will be a part of these conversations. So with that, again, thank you for the update. And if there is additional sharing prior to our moving toward our COVID moment of silence, I'll turn back to you.
Madam Chair, before I wrap up, I think you might still have one hand up from Commissioner Matas Castillo.
I will recognize Commissioner Matas Castillo prior to our closure. She and I have talked about it. Go ahead.
Okay, so thank you, Madam Chair. My wrap up with just three pieces. Thank you, first of all, to commissioners for sharing all the various dynamics today, and I hope the community takes time to listen to those comments. I think they reflect the broader community dialogue that didn't just start. This is a multi-year conversation laden with more frustrations along the way than, quite frankly, long-term sustainable progress and solutions in our state regarding housing stability. And there's a lot more that needs to be done. We will work on a specific communication plan moving ahead that will also provide for the opportunity to take into account what Commissioners Ortega and Matas Castillo hear this Thursday. And we'll bring that some comments back ready for that next week to all of you when we're back in front of you with this topic again. And on the broader piece around community and communication, I just would ask that everybody, as we work through this, recognize the part of most days, the emails and phone calls that we all receive are saying, please do something. And while this is a part of that something, and that can be challenging, this is part of trying to respond to that ask. And I know that nothing is perfect, and we need to continue to do all we can now in that space. But this is a direct answer to trying to do what we can in the moment. So we will bring back more next week. We will get the meetings set here that lead us all the way up until December that involve various levels of staff, community partners, commissioners, and community members to ensure that we're doing all of our work. The last thing I just want to go back to in the reflections that Commissioner McDonough shared, and as we talk about this moment and how to think about our next efforts going forward, over the last 5 years, through the work of the county, and Commissioner McDonough has been a co-chair of the Rush Outside In table, where we've been focused specifically on unsheltered homelessness and the top users of shelter. We've talked about the board many times. There was a focused effort that came together to specifically address some of the topics that he mentioned, and a committed community group that said we're going to meet monthly until we can get our hands around how to address what at the time was basically a need for emergency shelter responses. There is not currently a regional group that meets in the same way around setting the same vision and goals for other parts of that housing continuum. And I want to underscore the point of the need to move beyond saying we know we need solutions around the rest of that housing continuum, that we need to work with the county board to think through how do we develop whatever the right setting is to continue to push that affordable housing conversation. There's a funding piece of the legislature. We've done a lot around that, but bringing other partners to the table, because from the organizational side, from where I sit, I think I'm at the point where I would need to say we need to have a table where we're sending folks to every month on that very topic if we want to see the change that you've all been bringing up today. And that's a reflection that I would just share after getting to listen to all this today. And how do we use this moment, which is both a good moment in some ways, but it's also a broader reflection of a broken system of housing stability to better the community for the long term. And with that, I'll close my remarks, Madam Chair, and I really appreciate everyone's comments today.
Thank you very much, County Manager O'Connor. And again, to everyone for this robust discussion, recognizing the long-term work that Commissioner McDonough, you have done also at the Rush table, and that ongoing work for sustainable solutions. And also certainly the work that Commissioner Matas Castillo and you have done with the homelessness subcommittee. Every face around the table has done in contribution as we work in these issues and spaces. So we do typically conclude our COVID update each week with a moment of silence, and we are continuing to do so as there is such great loss, pain and suffering, and multiple combined issues within this period of time. Before we take our moment of silence, I'm going to call on Commissioner Matas Castillo to share a current occurrence that we should all be aware of. Thank you, Commissioner Matas Castillo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think it's important that as we have seen in national news about leaders who contract COVID and behave in different ways, but that we think locally as well. And we have lost, once again, a great leader to our community, Marner Saw, who is the founder of the CRIN organization of Minnesota. He was only 50 years old and lost his life this past weekend to COVID. And so I think it's really important that we think about our local leaders, the impacts to our local community. He was an uncle, a father, a grandfather, and a leader in a community that brought several of our neighbors and residents and helped them establish for financial independence and services here in Minnesota. And so I would like to dedicate this moment for Marner Saw.
Thank you very much for sharing the loss with us. And as we take this moment of silence for the dedication in this regard. So let us take our moment of silence and recognition of the pain and suffering throughout our nation, the world, and here locally. Thank you very much. So now that we've centered in the immediate needs and the long-term needs that we have, homelessness and other needs for services and responses in our county, we have the opportunity today, as we move on in our agenda, to recognize through the presentation of achievement awards the work that is taking place on a day-to-day basis in Ramsey County. I am going to call on to make this first recognition Commissioner Ortega to recognize a Human Resources Employee Achievement Award. Commissioner Ortega.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have the pleasure here of reading the nomination summary for Carissa Holt. Excuse me. Carissa is a senior business analyst with the Human Resources Department. She was nominated for a Ramsey County Employee Achievement Award by her supervisor, Tommy LaForde. She was nominated in the categories of excellent job performance and performance beyond the call of duty. Some of the many reasons for Carissa's nomination include a dedication to process and improvements and automation, her contribution to multiple committees beyond her normal duties, her superior problem-solving skills, her superb reputation as a team player and go-to resource for her colleagues, both internally and externally. In her time with the county, Carissa has worked tirelessly to make process improvements and promote automation. Her efforts have helped create cost savings through increased efficiencies by eliminating the need for manual data entry. As a Ramsey County focuses on sustainability, Carissa has worked with vendors on electronic file transfers to eliminate paper invoices. Carissa has been described as an employee whisperer by her colleagues, thanks to her ability to listen, make others feel heard, and address their issues. She is viewed as a thoughtful leader by her colleagues in the industry. On behalf of the Ramsey County Board of Commissioners and the Employee Achievement Award Selection Committee, I hereby congratulate Carissa and present her with this well-deserved award. If you don't mind, Madam Chair, I've had the pleasure of working with Carissa on the Food Committee, and ever since she came on board, as you remember in the very beginning, we tended to have every 2 weeks different staff folks because they were needed else when they were being deployed. And then Carissa came along, and I got to tell you, as I read through this summary, boy, it's all true. I mean, she really has been a critical linchpin in the committee's work. Everything, just from the food map to the contracts, making sure we're moving the money out the door to make sure the community gets the resources they need on the food committee. She's really been, I have not had the opportunity of working with her before, like I have with some of the other staff folks, of which they're all great, but Carissa has really made a difference. So I just want to personally congratulate her on doing such a fantastic job for us.
Thank you, Commissioner Ortega. And we do have Carissa standing before us, receiving the award in the chambers. We want to thank you for being here with us and celebrate you and give you a few moments to just share with us as well.
Thank
I'm
you.
going to turn to the chambers.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair and Commissioner Ortega. And thank you to everyone here. I just want to say that I'm very fortunate to work with many amazing, selfless people with a strong commitment to serving Ramsey County employees and communities. It's really humbling to be recognized, but I really want to extend gratitude to my coworkers for their tireless efforts during these trying times. I've learned some positivity, a genuine smile, and a little kindness goes a long way in this world. My goal is to be the best version of myself so I can help others from a place of love each and every day.
Wow.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you very, very much. Yeah, big applause. You can't hear it all, but you can see some of the hands moving back and forth. We thank you so much, Carissa, for all of the work that you've done. And clearly that smile and that genuine kindness and your gentle whispering goes a very, very long way in terms of the way the others in your unit feel about you and the work that you're doing, and in terms of the support that is very visible that you have been able to, with your team, provide to us here at Ramsey County for all of our work. So once again, congratulations. Thank you very, very much for all of your work. Are there others in the chamber prior to moving to this next award who had something to say? I think not. I think I'm going to be able to, without protest from the county manager, then move to our next award, which is going to be presented by Commissioner Fretham, an Achievement Award for Property Management. Commissioner Fretham.
Yes, I have the honor to present this award to George Stone, who is a maintenance mechanic with property management. He was nominated for a Ramsey County Employee Achievement Award by Deb Glazer and nominated in the category of Excellent Job Performance. George earned the praise of managers Dan Hicks and Brandon Troland almost immediately after starting his current position and was a standout even in his interview process. When he was asked how he could solve a mechanical problem, he was the only candidate who asked detailed follow-up questions about the problem so he could provide the best possible solution. George consistently displays his knowledge of his job and quickly completes assigned tasks, whether it's fixing a leaky faucet or daily checks of the HVAC system. He is persistent, tackles challenges with ease, and takes the initiative to do additional work without his supervisors asking him to. He also provides excellent customer service, often following up on projects to make sure requests are completed to satisfaction. For example, when an employee reported discomfort caused by a vent above her desk, George relocated the desk within her workspace and followed up several times to ensure she was satisfied. George's colleagues say he is a joy to work with, extremely polite, and genuinely nice. On behalf of the Ramsey County Board of Commissioners and the Employee Achievement Award Selection Committee, I hereby congratulate you and virtually present you with this well-deserved award. Thank you for your excellent job performance and contribution to our communities.
Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. I'm humbled by this. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Wow. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I want to thank you all for your time today for this blessed event. I've been working for Ramsey County for about 5 years now, and I've considered the buildings and the people that I work with are always dedicated. I've seen dedication in this room today, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the compassion that we have in our hearts. I'm grateful for the city I work in, the town I work in, the state I work in, the country I work in, and the world that we inhabit. And always, my parents told me to make somebody's day. Don't tear somebody down. Don't hurt people. So that's the code of my life. I commend you, Carissa, for the talents that you bring to the table. I wish I had such talents. I got degrees in opening up toilets and shoveling snow and cutting lawns. So that's my skill sets there. But I love being around people. And I've always run into happy people on all the facilities I've worked in, compassionate people. And I've always considered working in a rose garden with all of these lovely young ladies that are around. But thank you for your time and thank you for this. I greatly appreciate it and I'm humbled by it. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. Bless you and have a wonderful day. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that rousing round of applause is certainly for you and for all of the work that you've done for us. You mentioned your skills in working with facilities and caring for those facilities, but you didn't mention it without talking about the people. And really, you are caring for facilities within which people work and depend to do our best work. And so thank you so very much. Both award winners spoke about love and about gratefulness. And those are two very, very special and important factors for us to remember as we do all of our work. So once again, Carissa and George, thank you and congratulations on your Special Achievement Awards.
Thank you.
I didn't see you there still, George, but I'm so glad to know that you're there. And once again, congratulations. So again, this is just such a special part of our day. It's hard to want to move on. But with great thanks to the award winners, we are going to move on to the next pieces of our board meeting. And after the presentation of the awards on the agenda, you will see that we have another special presentation on the proposed Special Service Improvement District for downtown St. Paul. We do have a guest who is going to be speaking with us in that regard. And to introduce our guest, I'm going to turn to the county manager, although he will be someone with whom we are all familiar, I'm sure. County Manager O'Connor.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, I'll keep it short. Today we have Joe Spencer here to share more about the Business Improvement District and the work that he has been leading with a group of community leaders across Ramsey County and specifically downtown St. Paul for the last number of years. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Spencer and let him explain the rest to you today.
Great.
County Manager, Chair Carter, and Ramsey County Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to come and share with you some of the work we've been up to for the past number of years. Before I get into the details, I want to start by setting a little bit of the vision. And with context of all of the conversation about COVID, acknowledge that we're a downtown that normally has 55,000 workers in it every day, and we're down to maybe 5,000. We're normally a downtown with 8 to 10 million visitors a year, and we have essentially no visitors right now. But we know that this isn't going to last forever. And we know that the great momentum that downtown had going into this, the momentum, the reasons for that momentum are going to be here when we're through this pandemic. And we want to not only just recover from the pandemic, but we have a vision for growth. We have about 9,000 residents. That population has doubled over the last 8 years. We want to grow that to 30,000 residents. We want to take those 55,000 workers and grow to 75,000 workers so that we can sort of meet the benchmarks of the most vibrant cities. So that at any given hour, on any given corner in downtown St. Paul, you'll find a place that's alive with people. That's our vision. And in order to do that, in order to achieve that kind of growth, we need every tool at our disposal. And business improvement districts, as they're called around the country, what state law calls a special services district, and we've called a downtown improvement district, is one of those tools. St. Paul's the 64th largest city in America, and literally numbers 1 through 63 all have these improvement districts in their downtowns. There are over 1,000 of them throughout the U.S. and Canada. And so that's why we're here, is to achieve that vision. So what is a downtown improvement district? It's a self-imposed and self-managed assessment district to provide services that go above and beyond that which the public sector would normally provide. And as we look around the country, again, there are many of them, we see some very, very familiar themes. And I should mention, by the way, that we've been at this for quite a while, long before I was at the Downtown Alliance, before the Downtown Alliance even existed. Before that, there was a Riverfront Corporation that undertook a study that took a couple of years with hundreds of people, and they came up with the Downtown Vitality Vision. And that vision called for 3 recommendations, one of which was to create a downtown improvement district. Now, as I said, these look the same, essentially, wherever you look. And as we looked at our peer cities, what we find is they all have a consistent focus on a clean and safe program, and that clean and safe program is administered through basically 2 phases. One is a street team or ambassador services, folks that are out cleaning up and providing some safety reassurances for our visitors and for our users, and also a kind of dispatch system, a fusion center or safety communication center, a hub of collaboration and communication. Around the country, we see that less than 1% of these are decommissioned, and that's, I think, very significant considering that they typically require a supermajority of the ratepayers themselves. The folks that impose this on themselves need to affirm it on a regular basis, and they are rarely decommissioned. I think the most rigorous academic study came from the RAND Corporation that suggested that improvement districts reduce violent crime by 12%, which is a meaningful improvement. So as we've looked at the impacts of COVID and wanted to be responsive to the economic uncertainty, the steering committee that put this together decided to phase the implementation and focus in year 1, in 2021, on just what we call the Fusion Center. The Fusion Center is going to be a space where we coordinate all of the safety resources that are available in downtown St. Paul. Eventually, this will include that street outreach team, that ambassador team. But in year 1, it'll certainly include coordinating all of our outreach services. We had a lengthy conversation about all of the services and folks reaching out to people experiencing homelessness. And to have a coordinating hub, a kind of a triage center where kind of a one-stop shop where people can call for needs related to that will be important. Also, just collaborating and communicating with all of the safety personnel we have in downtown. Probably over 100 right now are sitting at desks keeping their buildings safe. We need to sort of better leverage those resources and get them to coordinate and communicate better. And then finally get all of those partners in collaboration with our law enforcement from Ramsey County Sheriff's Office, Metro Transit, and St. Paul Police Department. Last summer, we ran a pilot program. We had 5 ambassadors out for about 3 months. This is the one slide I pulled out of here. In the first month, this team removed 490 graffiti tags in just like the Rice Park area alone. And having a team out that day in and day out removes graffiti as soon as it pops up made a huge difference in the neighborhood. There were 1,500 people that got directions or assistance, 200 people that got escorted to their cars or other kinds of assists like that. And one story that I think is really important is our ambassadors on the street every day, they get to know the folks that are out there. And one individual was experiencing homelessness that they'd become familiar with, was having a crisis one day, on a cold, rainy day, was shirtless, asking for a cigarette. Our ambassadors took the jacket off their back and walked them over to a social service provider and got that person the help that they needed. Were it not for that program, more than likely that would have ended in a 911 call. We would have had 2 officers tied up for a couple of hours, and we wouldn't have given that individual probably the most appropriate help for his need in that moment. And that's just an example, an anecdote, but I think a really, powerful one about the possibilities of the program. So after that pilot program, we focused on the commercial property owners that were most supportive. Again, in the spirit of being by business for business, we drafted a proposal for a core district where we had the most support. And the users there were supportive of moving this forward on 3 conditions. And one is really important, and that is that the public sector, which we have a lot of in downtown St. Paul, who are also important employers who will benefit from the services provided here, that they pay their fair share. Also that it be run independently from city and other public sector institutions, and that it also that the city and the county make a commitment to provide the existing services and not reduce those as a result of this increased commitment. I talked a little bit about the phasing. The plan is, and a plan can change, but the plan is, as we look to budget for 2022, a year from now, that we would look to add that street team and ambassador services into the program. So when we looked at the 60% reduction or so to accommodate for COVID, we have a budget for next year of about $600,000. The rate is 3 cents per square foot plus $6 per linear foot of street frontage. And it would be our hope that the county would join the city, who's already made the commitment to again, make a similar commitment, and join all the commercial property owners and make this investment. Make it the investment in your talent recruitment and retention efforts, make a recruitment and growth, and an investment in the future. We want to accelerate our recovery, and we also we're not going to settle for just recovery. We have this vision for longer term growth. And with that, I will close my comments.
Thank you so very, very much for bringing this presentation to us, Joe. I know that with all that has gone on, your coming before us has been delayed a time or two, and so it's really good to have it before us today. Certainly, we are proud of the fact that we are part of the fabric of downtown and look forward to reviewing the materials that you are sending to us and considering the opportunity to partner as a part of making our district a much better, much safer, responsive environment and a place where our downtown can grow to meet all of our needs in the future. I do have a question or comment up from one of our commissioners. I want to turn quickly to Commissioner McGuire and encourage others as we receive your presentation to ask questions, comment on what we've heard. Commissioner McGuire.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and it's great to see you, Joe. And this is a great effort. I think I don't physically represent any part of downtown, but I have a lot of friends who live down there, and they are concerned about just, wanting it to be safe and clean, and so I know that they will be appreciating this this effort. I'm just curious. What I've heard so far, and I'm happy to hear more. And maybe this is a question for our county manager or for Commissioner Reinhardt in our budget. I'm assuming you want this sooner than later. So do we have ability in our budget this year to entertain this expense? And so if someone could just remind us about that, if we have the ability to think about doing that this year. I'm guessing you want it this year. Maybe you could answer that question first.
Sure. Chair Carter and Ramsey County Commissioners, this would be a program that would start in January and be for the calendar year 2021. So I'm not sure where that falls in your question. I do want to point out, I noted there were a couple different presentations that I sent out, and as I was trying to combine them, there was a copy-paste error that occurred. So the total, again, based on that rate I described of 3 cents per square foot and $6 per linear foot for the county, for its downtown-owned buildings, would be just over $72,000. So I think on one slide it showed $600,000, and that's in fact the total for 2021.
Madam Chair, Commissioner McGuire, just as a follow-up, there'll be a request for board action that comes back in the coming weeks. Today is discussion only, but you are correct that we'll have to identify a funding source as a part of that request for board action. This has been a long time coming in terms of the discussion and the planning work, so we're aware, and we'll bring back a specific spot and proposal to you in the coming weeks.
I appreciate that. Thank you for that timeline. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Commissioner McGuire. To you, Joe, for certainly clarifying the funding amount that is required in 2021, and for the understanding that we will have the opportunity to ask questions, to consider this, and to see a proposal come back for our board to act on in the very near future. Commissioner Reinhardt.
Yes, thank you. And I think it's important to note that our budget, and when we set that, is often by area, about activity. And so this is part of our operations side of the budget. And so, well, most of it is personnel and contracts and the work that we're doing. And so it doesn't, my understanding anyhow is it is not something that would require an addendum, but rather as each project or each activity comes forward, that we would be taking action on that. And this would be very similar to that. So it's not something that's above and beyond, but incorporated in. And if I'm incorrect in that, either Alex or the county manager can speak to it. But we have things on our agenda every week that we are then taking action on that are contained within our budget.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, yes to everything Commissioner Reinhardt just said.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much. So certainly encouraged by the evidence that shows the efficacy of these kinds of programs in reducing crime, providing for safety, providing for a environment that stimulates the growth of downtown activities and, in fact, the growth of our downtown. Thankful for the partnerships that this represents, and for the inclusion of public sector as well as business partners, and all of the work that you have been doing through the years, recognizing also the phased approach that has evolved as a result of the changes that you've seen in this year and the rethinking and reprioritization that was needed so as to come out with the commitment for 2021 and the expectations for 2022 as you see. I did want to ask just a qualifying question about those 2 years. As you look at the Fusion Center and then you look at the incorporation of the ambassador programs within that period of time, we know that the ambassador programs are currently existing. Could you please describe what that embrace would mean in terms of the proliferation or the engagement of ambassador programs in this downtown improvement district implementation in, and I know that you have said that that would be in 2022. What that would mean in terms of the changes to that program or
sure, thanks.
Growth.
Thanks, Chair Carter and Ramsey County Commissioners. As we look to 2022 and we were to implement the full street team ambassador model, what you would see is a contract with a vendor, one of the leaders and the company that's used in Minneapolis and Rochester and Duluth is called Block by Block. They're the kind of the market leaders in this, and what they would do is train and hire a team of people that would be out in the streets from, let's assume something like 6:30 a.m. until 11 p.m., something like that. And these boots on the ground would be out in the district, providing that welcoming presence, providing those additional eyes and ears, just tending to the spaces, cleaning up the garbage as it comes up, removing the graffiti as it comes up. And you would notice them as a person, hopefully once you won't be working from home for all that much longer. When you come back, you would notice them in their bright neon outfits, playing that role of sort of customer service and host, as well as tending to the public spaces that you walk from your car to your office or to lunch or those kinds of things. I'm not sure if that answers your question, Commissioner, but that's the general look and feel of it.
Yes, it does. I would just say that you explained that there was piloting of graffiti removal this past summer. So in 2021, that was a pilot that would not be continuing. But in 2022, then, as a part of the work that would be done with the ambassadors, that would be re-engaged. Is that correct?
Yeah, Chair Carter, that's right. They would come back into the streetscape. And I'll note that we're actually partnering with the City of St. Paul on a temporary engagement with those same ambassador teams right now, as are in kind of response to the crisis of the moment. They're out providing the additional presence, that cleaning, and with particular focus on outreach to people who are living outside and experiencing homelessness to provide some extra support for, again, our social service providers, our police, and all of the folks and stakeholders in downtown.
That is very, very good to know. Thank you. I'm going to call on Commissioner McGuire, who's had her hand up and now does so physically as well. Commissioner McGuire.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one more question. It occurred to me as I saw the boundaries of this, that there are going to be people that are going to be outside of these boundaries that are going to say, wait, we want to be a part of this. And I'm thinking of the capital region area, which we've just been discussing about just the number of, people that we've heard from, businesses, residential, around the capital area. And so I'm just curious how you decide on these boundaries, and at what point do you expand, and at what point do you just push things away, push things out, and then it's just on the outskirts of it. So could you just comment a bit about that, about how that works?
Chair Carter and Commissioner McGuire, thank you for that. That's a great question, actually. The idea here is that as properties adjacent or outside of the current boundaries, as they want to join, there's a provision where we can expand the boundaries. And specifically to the north, we're looking for the state to make its commitment. As a significant property owner, we want them to pay their fair share. It's not fair for everybody else to pay sort of for their properties. And so we get them. And again, there's a great value proposition here. We're confident we can make it, but we just need them to make that commitment, and we'll be happy to expand. There's a number of different models where this works around the country. It might be a series of independent districts that all work together, or it could be one expansive district. Both models work, but we just want to make sure that if you're benefiting from the service, you're paying your fair share as well.
I think it's an excellent idea to bring the state into this and have them absolutely pay their fair share on that. And that sounds great. So thank you for this and for all your work. I'm looking forward to this effort. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner McGuire and Commissioner Matas-Castillo.
Thank you. I was going to ask a similar question as Mary Jo, and so I just wondered if you can expand. So how were the boundaries chosen and divided? Because it's a strange map. It doesn't, it's not a square, it's not round, it's like this weird spoon or something. So how were they decided, and were they decided because the city and the county were going to step in? Because it looks like, we're paying a big bill, and what about everybody else? So I'm just wondering about that. Thanks.
Chair Carter and Commissioner Matas-Castillo, there's a kind of a panhandle that you'll see on that shape, and that was really a result, again, of talking to the commercial property owners, who by state law are the ones that sort of count in, and that we need a 2/3 majority of them to support this in order to have it. It was those property owners who said, no, we want to be a part of this. Don't leave us out. And in fact, a couple of property owners who own property in the sort of the west of Cedar portion of it said, we would be supportive of this, but we don't want to leave our other buildings out in the cold. And so we reflected a shape that essentially was determined by where we had support for the district. And the way again, the spirit of these being by business and for business meant that we didn't want to impose this on a tremendous amount of property owners who didn't want it. And frankly, it doesn't really work in that way. So what we want to do is get it established, prove the efficacy, demonstrate the value, and we're confident that those who are adjacent will want to be a part of it and elect to do so going forward.
Thank you.
So once again, thank you very, very much. With that question, there are no further hands up. I want to thank you for the work that you have been doing and for bringing this before us today. As I've said before, and give you a few moments if you have closing comments to share with us. We are looking forward to being able to determine our participation as partners in this work for downtown.
Chair Carter and County Commissioners, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. I do think this is one of the most exciting opportunities that are in front of us. And I think it's important for us to remember that this, we do have an ambition for what downtown St. Paul can be and what it will be. And I think this is just a really critical investment for us to make and a really critical tool for us to put in the tool belt so that we can achieve the things we know we're capable of in downtown St. Paul. We're not just downtown concerned about our very relatively small half-square mile. We're the downtown for the entire county and for the entire region. And so it's something we're very excited about. And in spite of all of the kind of current immediate challenges, we know that there are sunnier days ahead. So appreciate the time and invitation to share about this opportunity.
Thank you again. We appreciate your time and also are excited with you. recognizing that this is about our neighborhood location being downtown, but it's also about the location of our county seat that serves our entire county. So we look forward again to talking with you about this opportunity. Thanks for being with us. And with that said, then we are going to move on to our administrative agenda. I will turn to Commissioner McGuire.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I am happy to present the administrative items. Item number 5, the personnel complement increase in the Social Services Department by Social Services. Number 6, item number 6, single source agreement with National Medical Services, Inc. for toxicology testing services, sponsored by the medical examiner. Item number 7, increased compensation for election judges for the 2020 primary and general election by Property Tax and Records Election Services. Item number 8, from Property Tax and Records Election Services as well, is the First Amendment to Professional Services Agreement with Hart Intercivic, Inc. for elections voting systems. Item number 9 is from Parks and Recreation, the Tamarack Nature Center Garden House Remodel Project. Item number 10 is from Property Management, the Fifth Amendment to the lease agreement with the State of Minnesota, Explore Minnesota Tourism for Metro Square Building. Item number 11 from Property Management, amended and restated lease agreement with Regents Hospital and Gillette Children's Specialty Healthcare. Item number 12 from Property Management, a public health building at 555 Cedar Design Build Project, an agreement with Kraus Anderson for Part 1 Design Build Services. Item number 13 from Public Works, highway right-of-way access agreement at Silver Lake Road, that's CASA 44. Item number 14 from Public Works as well, to disclaim and extinguish interest in unused right-of-way. Item number 15, it's a board proposal, appointments to the Capital Improvement Program Advisory Committee. Item number 16, also from the Board of Commissioners, it's appointments to the Capital Region Watershed District Board of Managers. Item number 17 from the Board of Commissioners, appointment to the Disabled Veterans Rest Camp Board of Managers. And that completes the board proposals, Madam Chair. I move all of those.
Thank you for moving all of the agenda items. Is there a second on the administrative agenda in complete totality?
Second.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second on all of our administrative items. Is there any comment or question before we move to the vote? Thank you. So respecting that we've had the opportunity to review this large number of items on our administrative agenda, and we have heard the topic matter for each item, I am going to ask the county clerk to please call a roll.
McGuire,
Would you repeat that, please? I don't know that we heard it.
McGuire,
Aye.
Ortega,
Okay, Commissioner
you're on mute.
Ortega seems to be, oh, there you are.
Aye.
Thank you. Reinhardt,
Aye.
Fretham,
Aye.
Mas Castillo,
Aye.
McDonough,
Aye.
Carter,
Aye. And thank you very much. The entire administrative agenda has passed. And now we're moving on to the county connections section of our agenda. For that, I'll go back to County Manager O'Connor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, This is a follow-up to a board workshop that we had. I'm going to guess it was approximately a month ago. Sometimes the weeks blend together, regarding the board document management system and our transition to the new system we're now using, specifically on the topic of putting workshops onto the same spot as where you access board documentation. I just wanted to follow up on that. If I get something wrong, the chief clerk here can jump in and add whatever she'd like. But the project team is working with our vendor, Granicus, on the process that will allow our workshops to show up in the system in a way without talking about all the back end stuff. That means it will show up just like where your board documents do. That is slated for happening in November. We were trying to get there in October. I told Janet it was more important that we get it right for the long haul than try and artificially force a date. So you would notice today's is still under the current way we've been doing it, but I wanted to come back to you all and say that is the plan for sometime in November. I'm looking at the chief clerk. Is there anything you want to add to that, Janet?
No, thank you. You covered it.
And that is all I have today for County Connections, Madam Chair. Other than that, I'll just lift up the employees who were recognized earlier today, representing many amazing and outstanding employees across this entire organization. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I do have a couple of hands raised. I want to make sure they are current hands. Commissioner Matas Castillo first, Commissioner McDonough. So I'll call on Commissioner McDonough. Thank you.
Yep, thanks, Chair Carter. Just a quick question on this. The way the public accesses this, has it changed? And as far as they can get in to watch the live streaming, has that changed? I have to do some checking on my end. You know, my number one fan texted me and said she couldn't get in to see us today. And so I'm wondering if something's changed on that end with implementation of legislating Granicus, and we've got to make sure that the public access everything.
Madam Chair, Commissioner McDonough, I'll turn it over to the chief clerk to talk about how we now access it and if there have been any changes for both the live stream and the documentation.
Madam Chair, Commissioner McDonough, the difference is a different portal website that is published on your Board of Commissioners page. So if people were accustomed to going to your page, that's where they would get the information and it would automatically come up. The one other difference that we have is that when they click on the video link for the live streaming of the meeting, in the past they were able to log in and see the chambers before the meeting actually started. In this system, the video actually starts when the meeting is actually called to order. So some people have been, seeing a change in how it had happened in the past because they try to log in and will see that something indicates that it's unavailable at the moment, and it starts when the meeting is called to order.
So just a quick follow-up, and that may be what happened is my mom logged in early and just got that screen. Can we put like board meeting will start shortly or something so people know and they're not wondering, am I at the right, is it actually going to happen here?
Madam Chair, Commissioner McDonough, that request has already been given to the Granicus, the vendor. To do that, that's not something that we can control here in the county, but that request has been made because it's an important message for people to see that it's not just an error, that it's in fact an intentional way that the system operates. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you very much for the question, Commissioner McDonough. We look forward to being able to indicate to folks as they're clicking in that something is about to happen, and so that they know they can hang on. I had one more question.
Madam Chair.
Now that
Just could I add one last piece? I'll also work with our communications department to make sure that for the next couple of weeks through our social media channels, we specifically bump the board meeting when it starts and where to log on, because there is that risk of, if you have, like I have the same problem, if you've bookmarked a page, it might be the old page. And so the more we can do through different channels to get the new link out will hopefully eliminate some of those pieces. So I'll work with communications on the side as well as the things that Chief Clerk laid out.
Thank you for your help to be as conscious as possible and deliberate in making sure the information gets out. The question that I had about workshops now being available on the same Granicus site is whether those workshops will be available also by video to view. I don't think that they will be streamed online. I may have missed something, but could you just confirm that A, they will or will not be streamed online, and B, they will or will not be available to watch later online?
Thank you for the question, Madam Chair. So first of all, the materials will become available in November, just to make sure they're not there as of today, in a way where they'll just be at the same spot as the board documentation. And we're developing the process to ensure that happens. The workshops will not be live streamed. They can be accessed. The public point of access is the county manager's office, where there is a live stream of the video for individuals who would like to watch it. Similar to what used to be if you were to go to the chamber, or excuse me, across the hall to the Board of Commissioners office. However, immediately after a video concludes, since we're now using online platforms, we are making the video available as a part of the materials. And so it does become available as a video, which is a new and enhanced piece of information for the public that did not exist before COVID and will be worth discussing with the board as we move forward beyond COVID in the future and thinking about what we want to learn from this and take away technologically that may have long-term benefit as well.
Thank you very much. I am looking to see if there are additional questions. I do not see any at this point in time. We appreciate the county connections information that you've provided. And we will be able then to move on to our board reports. I'll begin those reports with Commissioner Ortega, go around alphabetically to Commissioner Reinhardt, start back up at the top with Commissioner Fretham, and end with Commissioner McGuire. Calling first then on Commissioner Ortega for your report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I like to report on our food subcommittee meeting that we had on Friday. I like to report that of the $10 million that we received from the CARES Act to distribute for food, we are now at $8.2 million that has been dedicated. And we have contracts coming up now on a rolling basis. So we're hoping to have all the dollars out the door within this month. The other thing that we spent a lot of time talking about was a community conversation. And I like to give a shout out to Tricia Forster, who's a planning specialist for Ramsey County, and Atonia Wilcoxon, who works for Equity Strategies. They conducted a community meeting with folks last week. We had 70 participants, which included folks in the community and providers and recipients of the services of the food. It was a very, very positive and overwhelmingly positive. Quite a few folks came back, and I have some comments here and saying how they felt that hearing from the county and having these discussions and having input has increased their trust level of the county. And they feel like they're participating in the process. So that's all positive as we move forward. We had a great discussion with the committee regarding where do we go moving forward, what does 2021 look like, if and when there is no other federal assistance, how do we become equally effective and efficient with our local resources. So at least we're beginning to start thinking about that and how do we move forward. So overall, it was a very good meeting, a lot of sort of discussion, looking forward to 2021. Not only how do we end the year, but what does the future lie in and how can we become more creative and more collaborative as we move forward. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner, for your work and for your report. Going to move on to Commissioner Reinhardt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to highlight one thing this week because you will see that I still have my census shirt up behind me. New location, but it's still there. The fact of the matter is, we were supposed to. Second, let's see if I can get that. Okay. The census date has changed so many times. And so right now, I believe it is still the courts ruled, the Census Bureau said, no, we're not going to do that. The courts ruled again. And so I believe that it is still to continue through October 31st. But quite frankly, we're just doing our work and trying to get as accurate of an account as we can get. Minnesota has a 99.9% rate, and we are number 9 in the country. I do think that part of that is very important is the self-response rate at 74.9%. And I'm not sure what the number is for strictly for Ramsey County, but the fact is, this is something that is the most accurate, the self-response rate. There are other ways to get the information where we have enumerators going out and you know, talking to individuals or talking to neighbors or talking to landlords or talking to someone that has some knowledge of that. So 99.9% isn't perfect, but and you would think, well, maybe that's good enough. And really, when we say everybody counts, we mean everybody counts. And so not only do we want to make sure that we get everyone counted, but we want to make sure that it is as accurate as possible. So at the very bottom line of this, we are having a complete count committee with the City of St. Paul and Ramsey County this evening. And the work that's been done with that complete count committee and all of the subcommittees, the working group teams that were established have done a phenomenal job. And honestly, this work started well over 3 years ago. And the Complete Count Committee has been meeting regularly for at least a year and a half. I think it's been about 2 years when we kicked it off. So this is important for those that are listening. Again, self-respond if you haven't already, or if you haven't heard from an enumerator coming out and talking to you, then please do so, because it means representation on an elected level, but it also means funding that comes from the federal government. And in fact, we have a very good example very recently now with the CARES funding. That was based on population. That's one of the reasons that Ramsey County received that $96 million, which has been a lifesaver for individuals in moving forward. So it really matters. Everyone counts, everyone is valued. And so I'm still going to encourage folks. I believe as of the time this meeting started, the self-response was still open for folks. So that is really what I wanted to stress today, and that will complete my report.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Reinhardt. Moving on then to Commissioner Fretham.
Thank you, Chair Carter, and thank you for Commissioner Reinhardt. MinCensus had posted yesterday that yesterday was the deadline. I just went and double checked, and they had corrected themselves. It's October 31st. So yeah, nobody knows the date anymore. So yeah, fill out your census. I want to repeat something I said at the top of the meeting: get your flu shot. I got mine on Friday. Go get that done. My office is currently soliciting follow-up questions on water management. We had postponed our meeting that was originally scheduled in March. We held it virtually in June. We got our Q&A document up with some expanded responses that we weren't able to fully answer at the June meeting. That is now posted on my District 1 page for folks. And we are still hoping to have a follow-up meeting with just more time for questions, but we want to get an idea of what additional questions and information people want. So a form went out in my newsletter yesterday for people to submit questions. People can also submit directly to email my office. So we are soliciting those. And once we have an idea of what sort of questions we know we need to bring to the table and want to get something scheduled in November. And then final update, we have been partnering, Commissioner McGuire and myself, extensively with the Suburban Ramsey Emergency Coalition, which is a group of service organizations who have come together to try to support our community out in suburban Ramsey County. They have been raising money to give out grants initially related to food support. They've expanded to housing, and now they're also expanding to mental health assistance. They are currently selling raffle tickets. They are raffling off a really cool Mustang, which my 4-year-old desperately wants. We saw it on Saturday at Shore 96. You also have an opportunity tonight to see this really cool car at the Shoreview Kowalski's from 2 to 5 p.m. and to purchase raffle tickets. I think when I was there Saturday, there were fewer than 20 raffle tickets left. They're only selling 1,000, so you have a great chance to win this sweet car, or I think there's a cash prize or some cool Yeti mugs or a purse or something. I don't know, but it's a great opportunity, and they're raising a ton of money to support the local community. So if you are in the Shoreview area between 2 and 5, stop by Kowalski's, check out the cool car, and buy some raffle tickets. And that's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you very, very much for those highlights. And moving on to Commissioner Mattis Castillo.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple updates. I serve as the chair of the Metro Emergency Services Board, and as many of you know, we recently experienced a 911 outage, not just locally, but across the country. And so I just wanted to share that the latest information is that this was a part of a series of outages that we've experienced over the last few years. And this most recent incident was the vendor, Intrado, is taking responsibility for this widespread outage. It had to do with some technical errors on the vendor's part. So it wasn't a hack. It wasn't a violation. There's a lot of rumors, but in fact, it was an error within the vendor. I will say that this has captured the attention of federal officials and could prompt reform in public safety regulations. So it's something that we will be watching very closely, but just wanted to share that update. I also want to congratulate our Ramsey County 911 services that worked very quickly to provide alternate phone numbers in response and kept services moving ahead as people needed them. So congratulations to our staff working through that outage. Once again, our staff is above and beyond in their skills and capabilities. So 2 other things, the Rice Winnipeg Coalition, which is focused on improving the safety at Rice and Winnipeg, an area that has experienced significant community violence, gathered together once again, along with our Healing Streets folks and our community ambassadors, to feed the neighborhood and provide meals. That was underwritten by Allianz, and we were able to partner at the new Smokin' Ninjas food truck court and bring community together and lead a healing and grief circle that was really important to the community. So this was one of a series of events that we continue to rebuild and bring back positive energy into that neighborhood and gather community together. And so we're very grateful for our team at Healing Streets for coming out and participating and helping our community heal and grieve and move through those issues so that we can come together and envision and create a new community for us. Likewise, Rice Lavender Alliance held a huge event as well. A couple Saturdays ago, it was the LARPin Tour. So we had different businesses and community groups around the area that actually had a 2-mile journey walk to connect and engage with community. And it was a very well attended event as well. Great things happening at the Rice Lavender Coalition as we envision and create a space where those 3 cities come together and really invest in that neighborhood as well. So great things happening, lots of good work as we continue to move our communities forward.
Thank you very, very much, Commissioner Mattis Castillo. Next, Commissioner McGuire. I'm sorry, Commissioner McDonough.
Thanks, Chair. Everything's pretty much covered. I just wanted to shout out to Carrie Collins and her team. I know many of you have been on the inner city leadership visit over the years. This year, because of COVID, we weren't able to go to Charlotte, but we held one here, and it's all virtual, and it was a great event. But Carrie and her team did a presentation yesterday for the 90 participants, and it was some nice regional recognition of the work that they've been doing on and as structure in our community and the importance of affordable housing and the work that she's been doing. Maria Zimmerman and can't remember number 3, but they're part of the team, and we're going to hear about that in our afternoon workshop this afternoon. But it was a proud moment for me to see the work in Ramsey County being highlighted, and this connects back to that earlier conversation that we were having about homelessness and towards sustainable solutions for housing for all. And we are doing that. And I wanted to acknowledge that and give a shout out to Gary and the team.
Thank you so much, Commissioner McDonough. And finally, Commissioner McGuire, including any legislative comments at this point in time. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will start with the legislative just comments. We are still hoping for a legislative session. There has not been one called yet for next week. We were hoping that we would have one Monday, October 12th, and there still could happen. We are told that various parties are meeting on the issues, and that they could still include a bonding bill, a tax omnibus bill, but they're still in discussions on it. So we are hopefully we're thinking positive that hopefully they will meet in special session and pass both of those bills, but we're not sure that that's going to happen. So we've been hopeful before. But I'm just hoping for some movement forward in those areas. On the federal front, the House Democrats passed a moderated version of the HEROES Act, which is a funding bill for all of our COVID work. The Senate's not likely taking it up, so that's going to probably not happen. But it does contain 3 items that was really helpful for us: more aid and an extension of the CARES money, which many of us are asking for. That we know we need this money, we just may not be able to spend it by that time. And we also want to account for lost revenues. This would have helped in our parks budget. So we want all these things, and our representatives know this. So we've been working our congressional delegation and senators hard, and they all support it. They all agree, but we just can't get it through. The other people in Congress. So we'll just keep working on those areas. So that's the legislative report, and just continue to thank our legislative delegation for all their good work and what they're doing. So then I'll go on to my report, Madam Chair. Just a few things. I want to give an update. The Governor's Blue Ribbon Committee, which I was honored to be appointed to, met again. We're actually focusing on transportation. The committee is called together to examine the role of an elected versus appointed Metropolitan Council, and also the Metropolitan Council's role as a metropolitan planning organization, and identify and evaluate the ways this federal designation can complement or conflict with the Met Council's responsibilities under Minnesota law. So it's the discussion between federal and state law. And then the effectiveness of the delivery of our regional transit service. So that's a wide range of tasks, and we have to have something by December. So we're meeting every couple of weeks on that. But it's a great group, and we'll hopefully come up with a report that will be good for all of us. I also want to, again, congratulate our superintendent of the Roseville area schools. He continues to meet quarterly with all of the elected officials in his area, cities, counties, legislators, and their staff. And it's a great connecting with all of our local government. And we just could talk about what's going on in the schools and then how we're all impacting each other. So it's a great group, and thanks to Aldo Sicoli, the superintendent, for bringing that together. The AMC Executive Committee met, and we also had a Big Four meeting, which is the Big Four is a group of the school boards, city, the League of Minnesota Cities, School Board Association, townships, and counties. We got together, we heard from the Office of Management and Budget, gave our financial forecast, and then we heard from Bill Doherty, who's talking about how we can bridge divides. And they're all interested in the same thing. How do we work together, and how do we all come together after this coming election, when there's a lot of division. So I'm glad that Bill is a Ramsey County resident. As many of you know, he's actually a Roseville resident, but he's been really doing great work in how people can come together. So I'm glad the Big Four got to hear from him, and hopefully they'll all be working on that. There's a meeting, an AMC meeting this Friday. So for those of us that are on the board that will be there, we'll be talking about our book. We're reading a book as a group, and I encourage all of you who aren't on the board to read it. It's called Love Your Enemies, and it's a great book about how we do come together and try to make things work. Not how we agree on everything, but how we actually continue to work with people we don't agree with. So it's a great book, and Dave Bartholomew is going to be leading us this at AMC. Also, at our executive meeting with AMC, we talked about the importance of really relaying to the public the accuracy and security of our elections. And so we all thought we would do more of an effort within our own newsletters and everything, just to make sure people understand we have safe and secure elections in Minnesota and in Ramsey County. So we thought that was a good message to keep bringing to our people. Also, the Suburban Ramsey Family Collaborative met. This is a quarterly meeting as well. This is with all of the suburban entities, the cities, school districts, nonprofits, and I just want to give a shout out to Kathy Hedin and Ling Becker, who serve on that. We really talk about how we can collaborate on services, and they've been great in putting together a whole list of services that I've built on at Ramsey County. And we had our quarterly meeting where it's just 2 hours of all the amazing work and getting citizen involvement in all the great work that they're doing. Just want to give a shout out to our service centers that are holding great elections. I talk on a daily basis whenever I'm on a call or anything. People are thanking us for the drop-off locations, or for being able to bring in their absentee ballots. They don't drop them off, they actually bring them in person, but they like that they have a shorter line. So if you filled out your absentee ballots, bring it in and you'll get to go in the short line, and it goes faster, and they love being able to drop their ballots off at a location. And just a big shout out to that, because people are really, really appreciating that. My last item is with the Ramsey County League of Local Governments, and I encourage all of you that can be there. I think I mentioned at a previous meeting that we've chosen the topic of mental health in our communities as our ongoing topic for the year, and we're having a kickoff meeting on that this Friday. It's our regular meeting time from 7:30 till 9, and we're featuring special guests from Northeast Youth and Family Services, the Suburban Ramsey Family Collaborative, Ramsey County Children's Mental Health Collaborative, and Ramsey County Public Health and Social Services. So we're going to get an update on mental health in our communities from all of those entities, 7:30 to 9. You should all have received a notice on that. But it's going to be a great conversation, and it kicks off how we are going to work together as school districts, cities, county together on this effort. So that's the Ramsey County League of Local Governments this Friday, and I encourage all of you to attend. So with that, that's it, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner McGuire. I see Commissioner Reinhardt's hand.
Thank you. I wanted to also comment that I'm getting a lot of really positive comments about the early voting. We have 3 different types, actually. Well, 4, if you count in person on Election Day. And being able to drop off your completed absentee ballot, and also the early voting absentee. And then in 14 days prior to the election, there will be early voting in person. And so there are a lot of things that are trying to make it as easy as possible for people to vote. With the compliments and thanking us for making these opportunities available, there have also been some suggestions, and that did remind me, when you said a shorter line, In some cases, that's true, but I think that one of the things that has been brought up that I think is really critical is signage, so that people know if you're coming to in-person absentee vote. That is a longer line generally. It's social distancing. But if you're coming, especially at the Plato location, if you're going to come in to actually drop off your pre-requested absentee ballot, that you need to make sure that you are getting to where you need to be. I think that one of the things that's been acknowledged is that we're all learning. But I think that the suggestion's always coming in a very positive way as far as could we have a signage that would say, if you've already completed your absentee ballot and you just want to drop it off in person, to make sure that it's checked, to make sure that it's accurate and your vote counts. That's what it comes down to. And if there is, someone that drops it off, or even in the mail, if it comes in and there's something missing, do it as early as possible, because we have the opportunity to then say, you know what, you forgot to sign it, or you need this or that, and you'll have the opportunity to fix that. The security measures we have in place, everyone seems to be noticing how closely this is being carried out, which has always been the case. We've had absentee voting and early voting for a long time, but this year, obviously, it's being utilized more than other times. So I do think that I just wanted to point that out, because I'm sure that other commissioners are getting comments as well about, signage, making sure that people know where they're supposed to be so that they're not in the wrong line, but also just trying to make it easier as far as how you can separate them out. Again, in some locations, it's easier than others. So wanted to point that out and thank the constituents that have contacted me to compliment and also to offer suggestions. It's much appreciated.
Madam Chair, if I could just follow. Thank you, as always. My colleagues add such great information. Thank you, Commissioner Reinhardt. That's exactly right. We're hearing from people on suggestions as well, and taking them to heart. And our elections division has been great in trying to address some of those. But it's well, yeah, I agree with all of those suggestions. And then, Madam Chair, while I'm speaking again, I just want to say a huge shout out to LARPin Tour. It was a really fun event. I got there for the second half of it. It was just like so amazing. People were there. It started to rain a little bit at the end, but people were just amazing. There was just the vendors and the participants that were hosting open houses, and just getting to know the Rice Street Gardens, the churches, the Head Start. It was just so good to see all, and I want to give a shout out to the restaurants, but I'll do that at my next shout out. But it was just a really great event, and just thanks to Commissioner Mattis Castillo, who's just been doing such amazing work with that alliance. So thank you, Trista, for all of your work. So I just wanted to give a shout out to LARPin Tour. I hope it's an annual event. It was very fun.
Glad you remembered to share that information. And so we're not going to do a second tour around. I'm going to go ahead and give a few comments on my report, just on activities, and then a few final comments regarding the entire county's work. So I did have an opportunity to be a part of an Association of Minnesota Counties Health and Human Services, finishing up the priorities. It took a number of meetings to get that done, but thankfully those priorities in the Health and Human Services Committee have been completed, and include, first and foremost, focusing on the extension of waivers that help us with the effectiveness and efficiency of our work, and also to improve outcomes. Focus on public health, statewide services, and support for those services, as well as for budget for both public health and human services. And focus also on a unique, or I should say genuine, county voice in any redesign efforts, which at a point in time such as this, when health and human services are typically looked at for potential cuts, redesign discussions also take place. And for a county voice in those redesign discussions wherever they may be happening to ensure the state and county local government partnership that needs to exist. So that was a good wrap up of those discussions together with Commissioner McGuire. This past week also, I attended a juvenile detention alternatives initiative stakeholder meeting. I have to tell you that it was the first since COVID-19. And so there was a process of regathering stakeholders and community who have thankfully held on and were vibrantly at the table. But prior to this meeting, we did conducted stakeholder interviews, including with commissioners as well as with all of the stakeholders. And the input from those meetings was a part of, or I should say, the bulk of the meeting, as we heard from each of the stakeholder areas what changes have happened since COVID, how those changes have perhaps accelerated the reform that we've been working toward these past over 10 years. We heard from them what great ideas have surfaced that have not been able to be implemented. And we also heard from them how the joint stakeholders together in joint decision making could advance recommendations and opportunities for that ongoing transformation and, in fact, accelerated work that could happen to ensure a justice and public safety environment within Ramsey County for all. So it was a really very good discussion. Did certainly recognize that there were certain voices that we weren't able to hear at the table and need to do some work to re-recruit back to the table, including, for an example, some suburban voices from the suburban police, as well as from communities that we need to make sure are consistently heard at the table. So work is happening there, ensuring that we have the participation of the broad law enforcement community and including our sheriff, and just simply also looking to ensure the voices of young people and parents, families who are in the system are continually heard at the table. So there was discussion about how to make certain that is happening, and also a review of data, which is typically conducted each time to share that the reform is still working in Ramsey County where juvenile detention alternatives is concerned, and that there are some areas that have stalled out. And so recognizing those areas and getting underneath the reasons for those potential stalls and how to ensure that work continues to advance to the greatest extent possible to focus on safety and security and best outcomes and equity for all within our county continues to be a part of the work that the stakeholder chairs are conducting together and now setting up and formatting for 2021 as that year begins. I had the opportunity to stop by Mount Olivet and to see some of the great work that is going on as COVID testing is offered in our communities, and to see the respectful, complete manner in which community is served, along with the partners that are working with us to ensure that work happens within Ramsey County, was a pure delight. Finally, I just want to say that we've heard achievements out of our human services area, out of our property management area today. We've heard about the work that's going on in COVID response. We passed a great number of items on our administrative agenda, and we continue to hear about all of the work that you all are being supported to do in our communities, by our staff, by leadership at Ramsey County. We are at a critical time. We are not out of the woods where COVID-19 is concerned. We continue to respond vibrantly and together with our community. We hear about the great work that's being done in our research team, racial equity community engagement and response team, and the collaborations that are being celebrated as we create new relationships and endeavor to deepen our work with community, and particularly with most impacted communities within our midst. There is so much work going on, certainly to respond as genuinely, as effectively, and as completely as we can during COVID on behalf of our COVID response, but comprehensively across each area of our work, whether it be in justice and public safety, or in our community investment, or in our human services, health and wellnesses, or in our information and public records area. There is deep work going on, and we continue to need to recognize and thank the special award winners and all who are doing this work day to day within Ramsey County. So I just wanted to share those few words prior to the conclusion of our meeting. Thanking all. We have no further hands raised. We are at the conclusion of our meeting. We have a 1:30 County Board workshop on economic competitiveness and inclusion, a virtual meeting which will be chaired by Commissioner Reinhardt. We will see you again then on the screen at 1:30. And for now then, the Ramsey County Board of Commissioners meeting is adjourned.
See you this afternoon.
Thank you.